Hi, good evening everyone. I think I am audible. Hello, am I audible and am I visible to all of you? Good evening everyone. I told you that today I will appear before you to live telecast on India's foreign policy from Nehru to Modi, a paradigm shift. This is my today's topic, and I would like to start, but before that I would like to thank all of you for watching me, for watching my live telecast, because this is the first time probably I am appearing before you to tell about India's foreign policy. And you all know that not all, but most of you who know me are well aware that very recently I have written 2 books. Last year I published 1 book, How India Can Become a Superpower by 2047. A vision, that is, you see the book here, you can see the book, okay. And again this year I have published 1 book, Viksit Bharat, Challenges and Solutions, okay. And very recently I am going to make a revised edition of my earlier book, that is How Can India Become a Superpower by 2047, a vision, okay. So all these things are actually, you know that I am a researcher and I have been doing research for last many years, for last 25 years. So already a quarter century have already been passed since I am doing research and writing books and articles. Okay, so today as I told you that I would share my vision and I would share my thought and my knowledge with you, particularly the students and young scholars, on India's foreign policy from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister, to the present Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Okay, let me begin with a very good quotation of Henry Kissinger, was the Foreign Secretary of the United States of America. He once said, quote, "No foreign policy, no matter how ingenious, has any chance of success if it is born in the minds of a few and carried in the hearts of none." It means that these very words of Henry Kissinger indicates that India's foreign policy, that the foreign policy of a country should not be confined within the foreign ministry only. Rather, it should be disseminated among its citizens, and that exactly has done by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, after the success of Operation Sindoor against Pakistan. You all know that India has been suffering from terrorism, not from within the border, rather from outside a border, or they are infiltrating the Pakistan government, Pakistani ISI are both training, funding and sending the infiltrators, the militants to India, in different parts of India, particularly in Kashmir, and creating nuisance. They are killing innocent people, they are killing our Jawans, they are killing our army and defense personnel, and they are trying to destabilize India. Particularly it has risen, I would say, after especially it has been risen after the withdrawal of Article 370 and Article 35A. Okay, so this our neighboring country, but the problem with our neighboring country is not a new one. The problem has started since 1947 itself. Okay, and we have fought 3 battles with Pakistan, and although all the battles were were befittingly responded by India, and they definitely, that's a small country, and they will never be, it is not possible for them to fight with India or fight against India, because they have no manpower, they have no military power, they have no naval power, they have no air power like India. India's population is 144 crore, whereas they have only 24 crore population. Okay, so and their military, their total GDP is, I mean, very less than us. Our GDP per capita, our GDP is $4 trillion, while they have only $360 billion. So they are rich, they are very poor country in comparison to India. But that I am not going, I am not telling all those things now. My focus is completely on India's foreign policy. You know, that I was telling with the quotation of Henry Kissinger, and you know, very rightly, Indian Prime Minister has sent 59 delegations, 59 people's delegation into 33 countries. You know, India sent 33 group of people, group of MPs from different political parties, and they have gone in 33 countries, and they have convinced them and the world leaders that Pakistan is a terrorist country, because in the International Terrorist Index, it has been published in 2025, the report says that after Burkina Faso, Pakistan is the most terrorist country. Pakistan is the birthplace of terrorism, but unfortunately, today I saw a newspaper that Pakistan has been given the responsibility of chair and co-chair of anti-terrorism committee and anti-Taliban committee. You know, so what if fun the United Nations Security Council has made itself a fun. Okay, so let me begin my discussion on India's foreign policy. You know, India's foreign policy should start from Jawaharlal Nehru, but prior to Jawaharlal Nehru, our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi, shaped the foreign policy of India, because it is very clear from one of the conversations of Jawaharlal, of our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi, with a journalist. He said that at first India's interest should be given priority. Above all things, India's priority should be given on India's national interests, and India should promote its national interest and the dignity and India's strengths in the foreign arena. Okay, so India's foreign policy should be discussed from India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. You see, it is a 1-hour program, and it is not possible for me to tell all those things of foreign policy, because it's very vast and complex, right? So that is why I have decided that I will tell you about the foreign policy of some very important foreign policies adopted by some legendary prime ministers, such as Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and his daughter Indira Gandhi, and P.V. Narasimha Rao and Dr. Manmohan Singh. Okay, and thereafter in the second part I will discuss with the foreign policies of Narendra Modi, whether there is any paradigm shift in the foreign policy of Narendra Modi or not. Okay, so you know that India's first Prime Minister was a great historian, a great philosopher, a great freedom fighter, and a great statesman. Okay, so his foreign policy. So before telling his foreign policy stance, let me say about what is foreign policy, because for the students it will be helpful, I think, okay, because the young students of international relations sometimes may grapple with the definitions, that what is the definition of foreign policy. Okay. So, in this regard I would like to say a definition given by Dinesh Kumar Jain. Okay. He indicates that, quote, foreign policies are developed by governments of diverse countries utilizing high level decision making procedures because national interests are paramount. It matters a lot how the rest of the world regards a country. Foreign policies are the harsh, include dealing with the issues of other nations, may lead to military action or economic embargoes being used often, unquote. So, Indian foreign policy is largely concerned with maintaining cordial ties with all countries, especially with the neighboring countries, and it has been built up on the 5 principles of Panchsheel of the non-aligned movement. The sole aim of the country's foreign policy is to, quote, promote its national interests in international affairs, unquote. So, in this regard, Johnson, David E. Johnson, D.P. Jennifer, Roger Cliff Moroni and others recently in a book chapter pointed out that, quote, according to Stephen Philip Cohen, there is an idealistic tone to India's foreign policy that stems from Gandhian idealism. This idealism is one of the reasons that India is one of the largest supporters of UN peacekeeping operations. Indian strategists are also keenly aware that their international status, especially within the developing world, depends on their idealistic behavior. Successive Indian governments have aspired to great power status in one form or another, an ambition based on India's sense of their history, on their ideology and their emerging economic power, unquote. However, it seems that India's foreign policy was influenced by Gandhi's thought. Yes, I was telling you in the beginning that India's foreign policy was shaped by Gandhi's thought. It can be cited or it can be referred a conversation which has been published in a newspaper, Young India, in 1942, page number 22. There was a conversation between Mahatma Gandhi and a Ludhiana-based journalist. Okay, so the question and answer were like this. The reporter asked Mahatma Gandhi, quote, shall India's foreign policy be governed by any other consideration but that of its population, unquote. In reply to this question, Mahatma Gandhi replied, quote, naturally the interest of India must be given preference over all others, unquote. So, India's national interest should be given the first priority in dealing with international relations. Okay. So, let me say, let me further tell a definition of Malone et al. It was published in an article in 2015. They wrote, quote, a country's foreign policy encompasses more than just its international policies. It also includes its commitment, present interests and ambitions and the values of proper conduct that it espouses, unquote. Okay. So, I am not telling other definitions. There are so many definitions, and Professor Mohendra Kumar also has given the aim of international relations. He said that okay, let me cite this one, and then I will I will switch to other discussion, right. So, Professor Mohendra Kumar said, quote, the aim of foreign policy should be to regulate and not merely to change the behavior of other states. Regulations means adjusting the behavior of other states to suit one's own interest as best as possible, unquote. Just a minute. Okay, so now let me say about India's foreign policy. As this lecture is meant for the students and scholars, I would like to refer some objectives of foreign policy. Okay, so there are 5 main objectives of a foreign policy. The primary goal of a foreign policy is to safeguard the country's territorial integrity and people's interests from both within and beyond the country. The second goal is to maintain ties with other countries of the international community and to pursue a policy of confrontation or collaboration with them in order to further its national interests such as economic development, environmental sustainability, military strength, safety and security of its citizens anywhere in the world. The third goal of a country's foreign policy is to promote and advance its national interest, right. The fourth purpose of a foreign policy is to promote the country's indigenous literature and culture throughout the world. The fifth purpose is to increase the state's influence either by expanding its sphere of influence or by putting other countries in a position of reliance, what Donald Trump is doing. Okay. So, apart from the above, the 2 other cardinal objectives of India's foreign policy are: number 1, to live and let live. Number 1, to live and let live. Okay. Number 2, to grow and let grow. To grow and let grow. In this matter, the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is, the world is one family principle, has been adopted. Okay. Now, let us discuss about the famous principles, 5 principles, that is Panchsheel, that is the core aspect of non-aligned movement. Okay. So, let me touch a little bit on non-aligned movement. So, in the post-Cold War period, post-World War period, when the world was bifurcated into 2 war groups, India joined none, right. So, the war-like situation is described as the Cold War. There will not be war, but a war-like situation is called the Cold War. The Cold War has been described as a situation in which each side continually envisages war with the acknowledged rival. It is a state of continuous preparation for war, a continuous war alert, compatible with all forms of organized violence short of direct encounters between the armed forces of the 2 superpowers. Okay. So, the world was then divided into 2 belligerent blocks, and the implicit arrangement in any military alliance is that the weaker power surrenders some part of its freedom of action to the stronger power in return for a guarantee of security. Due to military weakness, the non-aligned countries had to rely upon the international system and the balance of power to provide their security in the short run. P. R. Chari, a famous international relations expert, said, quote, "The strategy of non-alignment also implied buying time through maintaining maximum independence of policy by keeping aloof from the Cold War politics of 2 blocks, during which they could develop themselves first in the economic field and then in the military field." Unquote. Thus, it is seen as being an essentially anti-status quo movement with the characteristic of a dynamic policy. One of the major characteristics of non-aligned policy is the ability to judge international issues on merit. Military alliances, on the contrary, are not becoming outmoded conceptions. NATO has ceased to exist as a defense arrangement. The Datat between the United States and China destroyed a security arrangement designed primarily to contain the Chinese communist threat. The NATO is under strain. Unquote. So, we all know that in the post Second World War period, two blocs were emerged. One was led by the USA, while the Eastern Bloc essentially by the Soviet Union. The developing countries and newly independent countries were drawn into any of the two blocs, but India, being a proud and dignified country, for thousands of years decided not to go under any fold. So, the Prime Minister of India, first Prime Minister Pandit Nehru, said that it would not join in any bloc. Hence, non-aligned movement originated from a meeting in 1955 of several Asian and African countries in Bandung, Indonesia, right. So, the non-alignment was actually coined by Indian Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in his famous speech in 1954 in Colombo, Sri Lanka. The founding fathers of the movement were, who were the founding fathers of non-aligned movement? No, the founding fathers of non-aligned movement were President Joseph Broz Tito of Yugoslavia, President Sukarno of Indonesia, President Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, President Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, and Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru of India. Okay. So, I would like to say that NAM's main principles are what are popularly known as Panchsheel or 5 principles, right. Though these were originally formulated by the first Chinese premier Choun Enlai or Choun Enlai in the context of Sino-Indian relations. What are the 5 principles of non-aligned or Panchsheel? I would say, number 1, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Remember, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. If Pakistan had respect for India's sovereignty and India's territorial integrity, then they would not interfere, they would not send their terrorists in our country. Okay. Number 2, mutual non-aggression. Number 2, number 3, non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Number 5, equally and mutual benefit and peaceful coexistence. So, these are the principles, 5 principles that are called Panchsheel. Okay. Now, let us discuss about foreign policy of India's great or luminary prime ministers. Okay. So, let me begin with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who is called the architect of India's foreign policy. Though India is a non-violent and peace-loving country since independence, India does not retreat from taking actions if its national security, national interests, border security and safety of citizens are jeopardized. The tough stand of India can well be understood from the speech of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the United States Congress, when he said, quote, "Where freedom is menaced, justice is threatened, or where aggression takes place, we cannot and shall not be neutral." On another occasion, he said, quote, "Our policy is not to commit ourselves previously to follow a certain line. Our policy is the independence of action. If we say we are permanently neutral, it has no means except permanent retirement from public affairs in the national sense shown Nash. No country can do that, and certainly we have no desire to retire from world politics." Unquote. A. Appadurai, in one of his works, has rightly commented, quote, "Thus, independent foreign policy is not the same thing as neutrality. It may demand, if and when war comes, that India should join the free nations to realize her objective of freedom and peace. It is not a negative policy, it is a positive one, designed to realize the objectives of peace, freedom and friendliness with like-minded nations and the economic development of herself and other underdeveloped nations. This independent foreign policy only means that India refuses to commit herself in advance to either block utilizing a pact or otherwise to surrender her freedom to judge each issue it rises on its merits, unquote. Appadurai quoted in Bhattacharya, page 8 and 9. Okay, so Deepak Lal also discussed India's foreign policy from 1947 to 1964 under Jawaharlal Nehru. He pointed out that, quote, as with any foreign policy, the claims of national security were very important in Nehru's model, unquote. There were two basic value assumptions in the model that required a two-pronged general strategy. On the one hand, preserving national security in the world as it is, with its imperfect human beings, and power politicking among states, whilst at the same time trying to move towards the notional idea of a new society both at home and abroad, unquote. For Nehru, national security implied not merely physical security but also freedom from political and economic domination. The latter was almost as important for him as were physical security. In terms of sources of strength, the author cited Nehru's statement, quote, the author means Lal, so he cited from Nehru's statement, quote, whether it is a problem of defense or trade or industry or economic policy, India cannot be ignored. She cannot be ignored because her geographical position is a compelling reason. She cannot be ignored also because of her potential power and resources, unquote. Next, I would like to tell about the foreign policy of Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was a loving daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru. She ruled India from 1966 to 1977 and again from 1980 to 84 till her assassination. Okay. So, she was a pragmatic politician. She carried forward the legacy of her father. Through foreign policy, she tried to rebuild her own image in the global arena, as it was mostly shattered by her ban on media and arrest of opposition party leaders during the emergency period. She dismantled every institution during emergency period. Those institutions were judiciary, press, parliament and even cabinet, which came under her way during emergency. Despite the fact she was the de facto first lady of India. People used to say India is Indira and Indira is equal to India. Okay. So, foreign policy can never be discussed in isolation. It is very much related to the national interest, national security and domestic aspirations. She might not have governing experience but learned international relations, diplomacy and world politics from the discussions of his father, who had discussed with world leaders during various international meetings as a companion of her father. These gave her practical experience in international affairs. If you see the photos or if you read the literature of the 50s and 60s, you will find that always Indira Gandhi is sitting with her father Jawaharlal Nehru, with delegations maybe from Russia, maybe from USA, maybe from any other country. She was always in the midst of their discussions. So, Jawaharlal Nehru was imparting training, rather I would say, to Nehru so that she can bear his legacy after his passing away or after his demise. Okay. So, Dr. Ajay Kumar Sharma and Dr. Jitendra Kumar in an article said that, quote, nevertheless, she was open-minded with every other country, but still the Western criticism and her growing resentment steered her towards the Soviet camp. Indira's mindset of resentment towards the West was not applicable to France because she had a soft corner for it. For Mrs. Gandhi, West, quote, West within this quote, within quote, to a large extent meant America. Those insincerity in the 1971 war is explicitly condemned. She obviously points out that her amity with a country is a part of worldwide affairs, and it does not mean that she should relinquish her sovereign outlook on any key issue. It is all stuff of bewilderment, unquote. Sashi Tharoor, in an interview with Mrs. Gandhi, asked some questions regarding her vision of the world and India's place and role in world affairs. From the conversation, her views on foreign policy can be well understood. Sashi Tharoor wrote in one of his books, Regents of State, in page number 89, you will find, quote, 5 considerations emerged for Mrs. Gandhi's statements: the value of independence and self-reliance, an assertive Indianness, and awareness of the use of foreign political policy and domestic economic ends, with both involving the concept of strength, a rejection of traditional direction of peace, and of the eminence resulting therefrom, unquote. She used to interact personally with the major powers such as UK, USA, and Soviet Union and the rest of the countries where dealt with by her foreign minister. Indira Gandhi restructured the committee systems at the time. In 1970, she abolished the committees on foreign affairs, broke the defense and internal affairs, and formed the political affairs committee. She formed political affairs committee. During her tenure, she appointed 4 foreign ministers, including Sardar Sharan Singh, Muhammad Karim Chaglam, Dinesh Singh, and Y.V. Chavan. I am not going details in that. Mrs. Gandhi, in an interview, once said, quote, a country's foreign policy cannot be divorced from its internal policy. Any country, any government, any political party must decide what it believes in, and all its policies must then flow from these basic convictions or belief, unquote. Okay. So, she also gave primary importance to maintaining good relations with her neighbors such as Bangladesh, and she created Bangladesh from Pakistan, because Pakistan was creating problem and Pakistan was killing and torturing in East Pakistan. So, as a result, she supported Mujibur Rahman and created now Bangladesh. Okay, though Bangladesh is now now denying that behind the creation of Bangladesh there was no role of India. The foolish persons are doing that. Okay, so she fought the 1971 war, but prior to that, she personally visited Moscow, France, Germany, Britain, Belgium, and the USA to arouse the world's consciousness and seek their support. Right. So, ultimately, her relations with the USSR came into use to win her battle against Pakistan. She was a sagacious and far-sighted global leader in true sense. Right. So, P.V. Narasimha Rao was a polyglot lawyer and experienced statesman from Telangana, became the Prime Minister of India outside Nehru Gandhi family in 1991. He is mostly famous for liberalization of economy, because he appointed Dr. Manmohan Singh as his finance minister. He himself was foreign minister under Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Okay, so and he served, yes, in the foreign ministry in the 80s under both Prime Ministers Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. So, he himself was an expert in international affairs, but being the Prime Minister of India, he appointed Dr. Manmohan Singh, a renowned economist, as finance minister, and a young lawyer, P. Chidambaram, the commerce minister. Similarly, he appointed J. N. Dixit, a South Asia expert, as foreign secretary to demonstrate his authority in Indian politics as well as international affairs. So, Mr. Chengappa, in an article in Young in India Today, wrote, quote, Rao's first overseas visit in late 1991 was to Germany. During his visit to Germany, his speech extolling the virtues of investing in India showed the acumen of a corporate chief executive, and indeed 6 months of rigorous study of the briefs given to him, unquote. He developed relations with Middle East. Also, he decided to develop relations with Israel. Quote, in 1991 itself, he invited the chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat, for the state visit, unquote. During his tenure, India's diplomatic relations with Israel developed fully. He equally paid importance to Iran's and Arabs, right? So, in this way, he also increased or strengthened ties with Southeast Asian countries and countered the influence of China in the region and increased strategic and security cooperation. He also indeed developed bilateral relations as well as display India's image in the international domain. Hence, Rao paid a visit to South Korea, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore and Malaysia. During his tenure, Indo-Pak relations was improved. His period is characterized by 6 meetings between him and his Pakistani counterpart in the first 2 years of office. Okay. He also invited Mr. Clinton to come to India, but at that time he disagreed. But later on he came to India by the request of our Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Okay. So, during Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's regime also, he came to India. PM Narasimha Rao, what happened? He made, prepared all ingredients of nuclear bomb, but could not afford to explode it in 1991. However, he gave a note to his successor Atal Bihari Vajpayee to explode the same in due course of time. And he was an ambassador of India's tradition and culture too. Rao's foreign travels were notable for the cultivation of both businessmen and Indologists. In that sense, he was a pioneer in economic as well as cultural diplomacy, unquote. Okay. So, similarly, Dr. Manmohan Singh was an unanimous pick of Congress party, being a world famous soft-spoken economist, an academician in heart and loyal to Congress Supremo. Singh could not make independent decisions in either domestic or international affairs. Okay. Whatever, Dr. Singh started his foreign policy innings when his predecessor Atal Bihari Vajpayee left. Quote, there was no shake-up in India's foreign policy. He chose not to deviate from the stand that Vajpayee pursued, a policy of great engagement with regard to the US, China and Palestine, and 3 countries critical in India's foreign relations, unquote. Dr. Manmohan Singh successfully expanded relations with each of these countries. Indo-US bilateral relations during his tenure took a new shape when these 2 countries signed a landmark civil nuclear deal which liberated India from the nuclear suppliers group. International experts consider it as a recognition of India as a de facto nuclear power by the US administration. During Manmohan Singh's regime, Indo-Japan relations reached a new height. Japan invested in several automobile companies and it has contributed to setting up India's infrastructure, especially New Delhi's metro subway system was started constructing during his time. So, Indo-Japan relations is an age-old affair. Dr. Manmohan Singh visited Japan and signed a treaty in 2006 named Joint Statement towards Japan-India Strategic and Global Partnership. India improved ties with Japan to such a level that Japan granted a lowest interest loan of $4.5 billion to construct a high-speed rail line between Delhi and Mumbai. Okay. So, Dr. Manmohan Singh had a good relationship or good friendship with Barack Obama. Similarly, Barack Obama also had great respect for Obama. On 24 November 2009, Dr. Manmohan Singh was invited as the guest of honor at the first state dinner in the United States, right. So, in return from 6 to 9 November 2010, Obama also paid a visit to India and signed numerous trade and defense agreements with India. He addressed the joint parliamentary session of the Indian Parliament and announced his support for India's claim for permanent membership in the Security Council. Okay. So, in this way, he had a good relation with Vladimir Putin, and at the same time, he built up a relationship with Soviet Russia, and not only that, Dr. Singh agreed to work towards the creation of joint study group to study the possibilities of signing a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement between India and Customs Union of Belarus, Kazakhstan and the Russian Federation. Both countries agreed to cooperation in science and technology, educational and cultural cooperation, interregional cooperation, cooperation in the field of disarmament and non-proliferation, enhancing security operation in Asia and Asia Pacific, and cooperation among BRICS countries. Both Russia and India believe that the crisis of Syria could be settled only through political means, unquote. So, this was the extent of relationship between India and Soviet Russia during our Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh's time. Now, after Dr. Manmohan Singh came to power, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is the epoch-making Prime Minister, though he had never been an MP earlier, neither he had any knowledge of international relations or how to work as a Prime Minister. He did not have any experience of national politics. Okay, he did not have formal political experience, though as a worker of RSS, he traveled everywhere, including in the US and in many states as a procharak, but he had very little knowledge of direct international relations or international politics. Okay. S.D. Pradhan states that in July 2014, at an international conference in Vietnam, a group of foreign policy experts from Western countries desired to know what the nature of India's foreign policy under Modi going to be. It was a difficult question for him to answer, hence he decided to go by the manifesto of the BJP. He told them that the Indian foreign policy would strive to improve ties with key states and to aid economic development and enhance its global standing with bolstering its security interests. Mr. Narendra Modi, after coming to power, realized that the major power players in the global arena are the USA, Russia, China, Germany, Italy and the European Union. But China and Pakistan can be weighed in the same scale. China is India's most prominent competitor, while Pakistan is the bathroom of terrorism. China is highly ambitious and Pakistan is its all-weather friend. Both China and Pakistan are untrustworthy, international lawbreakers and have ill intentions. In such a situation, Narendra Modi, after his inauguration, put an emphasis on strengthening relations with the neighboring countries such as South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation or SAARC countries, kept a fine balance between the erstwhile Cold War rivals, the USA and Russia, increase India's national power in economy, infrastructure, military, science and technology, make India's presence in every global event, put pressure on China and make Pakistan isolated from receiving military, finance and logistic assistance from the global powers as well as International Monetary Fund and World Bank. The global political stability changed in 2022 when Russia attacked Ukraine. India caught between historic ties with old friend Russia and a burgeoning friendship or partnership with the United States. But India deftly navigated relations with two great global powers while staying true to its position of strategic autonomy. A paradigm shift in India's foreign policy began its journey with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which encompassed the neighborhood first policy embodied by SAARC as well as Look East policy to forge more extensive economic and strategic relations with other East Asian countries. In his first oath-taking ceremony in 2014, the Prime Minister invited all the leaders of SAARC countries, including Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Outside the SAARC, he invited Mauritius Prime Minister Robin Ramgoolam also. These ushered in a new era of India's foreign policy under the Modi government. Further, the Prime Minister turned the erstwhile Look East policy from a merely economic cooperation into Act East policy that emphasized on the strategic partnership. Abhishek Sharma and Pratnasri Basu, in a recent article published in Observer Research Foundation on October 10, 2024, they pointed out that, quote, the completion of India's Act East policy and upgrade from its earliest Look East policy into which was announced on 13 November 2014 by the Indian Prime Minister at the 9th East Asia Summit in Naypyidaw, Myanmar. The announcement marked a new shift in India's characteristic or strategic outlook, elevating South Asia's stature in Indian geostrategic calculus. Since then, India's Act East policy has also influenced India's engagement with Indo-Pacific region, playing the role of a North Star, unquote. In the second swearing-in ceremony, Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited leaders of all BIMSTEC nations. Okay. So, what are the BIMSTEC nations? BIMSTEC nations are Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation regional group of countries, including Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Nepal and Bhutan. And in the second inauguration, Mauritius was also, Mauritius and Kyrgyz Republic were also invited. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi unfolds the aim of his foreign policy is to make India as a major global power. In the beginning of his third term, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that during his visit to the United States of America, he said to Donald Trump, while he was meeting in the White House, he told that, like Donald Trump, his vision means Mr. Modi's vision is to make India great again, that is MIGA. American president has a vision of MAGA, that is make America great again. Similarly, Indian Prime Minister has a vision to make India great again, that is MIGA. He told that. And today the global situation has been changed. The strength of India from all perspectives has become stronger than the previous century, and the attitude, ambition and the vision of people and Prime Minister in India has reached to a very high level. In this regard, Vikas Yadav and Jason Ekirk envisages that Modi's efforts to position India as a major global power have been no less ambitious than his transformational domestic goals, unquote. So, he wanted to make India a third republic in India's foreign policy, the first republic being Nehru's era of non-alignment during the Cold War, and the second, the partial embrace of globalization and economic liberalization in the 1990s. India has now shunned the erstwhile Nehru's foreign policy of non-alignment. Instead, it has adopted the policy of multilateralism. India is now having equal relationship with all the global powers, with all the powerful global countries. Okay. So, India's strategic orientation are now guided by the quadrilateral security dialogue and partnership including transformation, including including United States, Japan, Australia and Indo-Pacific. The world politics has transformed from bipolarism to multipolarism. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, while speaking in March 2022 at the Institute Francis des Relations in Paris, contended that the world was undergoing profound geopolitical, geo-economic and technological changes. The world politics is always volatile. It has become more uncertain in recent years after the Russia-Ukraine and Israel-Palestine conflicts. Okay, so I would say how now I would say a little bit about how India's foreign policy under Narendra Modi turned with Russia. So, Indo-Russian friendship. Russia is India's very old and very close friend, and it is considered that this friendship is an all-weather friendship. Okay. India's friendship with Soviet Russia is very famous, and everybody knows that how firm, how solid is India's friendship with Russia. Okay, so you can say that a good example can be drawn from a recent international phenomenon when Russia attacked Ukraine in 2022. In the aftermath of Russian attack on Ukraine, the USA and other Western powers put economic and political sanctions on Russia, but India defied the US's ban and Western powers' ban on Russian oil and continued to import even a large quantity of crude oil from Russia. The decision of India to purchase crude oil from Russia was unilaterally ultimately accepted by Washington. They have nothing to do, because people understood that India needs its power for its national interest. Okay, so Indo-Russian friendship is now so cordial, so tight, so solid that it is unbreakable, unshakable and unwavering. The friendship is based on mutual respect, mutual tolerance and mutual national interests. Let me go back to the 70s of the previous century, when there was a treaty between India and USSR. Okay, it was signed on August 9, 1971, and for maintaining peace, friendship and cooperation for a period of 20 years. Quote, the diplomatic situation in the subcontinent and in Asia lent credence to the argument that the treaty was a response to the announcement of the secret Kissinger-Chow talks, which were held in Peking during July 9 to 11, 1971. Okay, so this was a treaty which made or which strengthened India's relationship again. India made a treaty with Russia in 1991, and then summit is going on with Russia from 2000. Okay, so Indo-Soviet Russia treaty of the 70s had some special aspects. I would like to say the special aspects. Article 1 to 7 outline the generalities of Indo-Soviet Russia relations. Soviet support for Indian non-alignment is reaffirmed in Article 4. Article 6 and 7 outline the importance of Indo-Soviet Russia cooperation. Okay, and I would say that some articles, like Article 8, declares that the two countries would not enter into military alliances directly against the other party. The article also precludes the use of their territory for inculcating military damage against the other side. Article 9, as the operative part of the treaty, stipulates that the two sides will abstain from providing any assistance to any third party that emerges in armed conflict with the other party. In the event of either party being subject to attack or threat thereof, the high contracting parties shall immediately enter into mutual consultations in order to remove such a threat, to take appropriate effective measures to ensure peace and security of their countries. You see, in this way we can say that India's relation with Soviet Russia is based on tight treaty, and that has been still following by Mr. Modi and Mr. Putin. And India's military, India's Ministry of External Affairs in its annual report highlighted that Indo-Soviet relations, which was officially characterized as dynamic, resilient and stable. So India's relation with Soviet Russia is always very cordial. You see, you will find that India's relation is so cordial that during the Operation Sindoor, Soviet Russia, Russia extended its complete support for India. Even they wanted to support with military support and economic support. All kinds of support were extended by Soviet Russia, because it is a very old friend. And what happened? Now I will not discuss detail, because we don't have much time. India's relation was very good with Soviet Russia and is good, and I hope that it will continue to remain good. The roots of India-Russia's friendship was actually Russia opened its first consulate in Mumbai in 1900. Okay, and after you see, after 1947, when India got independence, it opened its embassy here in India. And in 2017, India celebrated 70 years of establishment of diplomatic relations between these two countries, or establishment of diplomatic relations with India. Okay, so during the Kashmir or Operation Sindoor, they provided what I say support. And similarly, India is also always supportive of Pakistan. When Russia invaded Ukraine, it softly said that it's not time for war. And not only that, in earlier also, when in 90 and 91 there was food crisis in Russia, India responded promptly with a loan of 1 million tons of wheat and a gift of 20,000 tons of rice. So on recent Russia's invasion was also mildly rebuked by Indian Prime Minister. You see, so this is, in this way you will find that India and Russia has a very good and a close friendship. Not only that, in 2018, India-Russia arms deal was signed worth 5.43 billion for 5 squadrons. 3 of the 5 planned squadrons have already been delivered, and the remaining S-40 air defense units are expected to be delivered by 2025 and 26. Now India is making arms with Soviet Russia in Atmanirbhar Bharat what I say scheme. So in this way, India is having very good relations. India-Russia friendship is shaped by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And with this, I would like to say that I will not tell more about India-Russia's friendship. India-US friendship, you see, India-US friendship was never good earlier, but it sometimes became good and sometimes became bad. So since the 90s of the previous century, the USA had started to put more importance on China than India, despite the two countries' common democratic practices. The United States in the 1950s became frustrated with India's non-aligned posture, as it is complicated, complicated by India's stand of a non-aligned posture. So that is why, but ultimately India's negotiation of reforms needed to open its ceremony in order to complete effectively in international globalization, provided openings of closer relations with the United States, and the liberalization of Indian economy in the 1990s by the then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and his Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Sihgh brought about dramatic changes in American outlook. And you see, the relations is so good now that India's Indian immigration in the United States increased from 450,000 in 1990 to 23,90,000 in 2015. It was said in 2025. So this is the situation, and now there are many people there, Indian people are working there, and I would say that India's relations now with Donald Trump, our Prime Minister Modi's relation with Donald Trump is good and cordial. And actually, Donald Trump is a businessman. He always wants business and understands business. And during this tariff war, India has no problem with with America. India is doing well with America. Similarly, India is having good friendship with France. India is having good friendship with Israel. India is keeping very good relationship with Arab nations or Arabian countries, and it has included African Union in the G20 summit in 2023, and India's relation with BRICS countries, India's relations with ASEAN countries, and India's relations with European Union is also good. And India's relation, though in recent times, has been shattered by the Operation Sindoor, and because Pakistan is always creating problem, and sometimes USA gives assistance to Pakistan, and after all those things, after knowing that Pakistan is a terrorist country, India protested against the United Nations Security Council's decision to include Pakistan as a anti-terrorist committee in the anti-terrorist committee of the United Nations Security Committee, United Nations Security Council, and also against anti-Taliban committee. They will chair and vice chair. So these things have created anger in the leadership as well as common people in India and many other countries. So you see, India's relation with Bangladesh has also worsened after the fall of Sheikh Hasina. But India is having very good relation with other countries in the world, and with this, India is growing, India is developing, India is making its own road. In this battle, India used its own homemade weapons against Pakistan, and this is a great opportunity for Indian people, Indian military, Indian Air Force, Indian Defence, Indian Naval Force to do war with our enemy countries, with our indigenous weapons. And with this, I expect that India will do more, India will do better in the days to come, and Indian Indian Prime Minister and Indian on the Council of Ministers and Indian people will extend support to our Prime Minister, and the paradigm shift which we find under Modi is really good, is really praiseworthy, and it is necessary, and it is a response to the need of the hour. So with this, I would like to conclude here, and I hope that I have not bored you, because I have been telling for last 1 hour and 2 minutes. If there is any mistake, if there is any if you are not if you do not like it, please excuse me. Still, I tried to say you in detail, but it was a long article but I have written, but I could not say even half pages. Okay, if there are opportunities, and if someone invites me, definitely I will deliver the rest foreign policy and international relations from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Modi, and with an emphasis of Narendra Modi's foreign policy and international relations. So with this, I would like to close here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.